He invited his poor ex-wife to his wedding, just to shame her in front of everyone. But when she arrived, stepping out of a limo in a breathtaking dress with 3 beautiful children by her side, their triplets, the entire crowd went silent. No one could have imagined what would happen next. David had everything a man could dream of, or at least that's what people thought. He was wealthy, handsome, and successful. He owned several businesses, lived in a mansion on the hill, and was known for hosting lavish parties where the city's elite gathered to show off their wealth. But beneath that charm and success there was a cold, proud man who believed money could buy him happiness, and status was everything. Years ago, before the fame and fortune, David had married Emily, a kind, soft-spoken woman who truly loved him. They met when they were both struggling, working long hours just to pay rent and afford a decent meal. Emily believed in him when no one else did. She stayed up late helping him with business plans, cooked him meals when he worked through the night, and supported him even when he failed again and again. She never asked for expensive gifts or fancy dates, just his time, his presence, his love. But as David's business began to grow, so did his ego. The humble man who once promised her the world slowly changed. Success got to his head. He began surrounding himself with people who flattered him, who only saw him as a ticket to wealth. And he liked it. He started comparing Emily, simple, modest Emily, to the glamorous women he met at business parties. He began to feel embarrassed by her thrift store dresses and gentle manner. "You need to look like a businessman's wife," he once snapped at her. "You represent me." Those words cut deep, but Emily stayed silent. She tried to understand, to be patient, thinking he was just stressed from work. But it only got worse. David's new circle whispered poisonous words into his ear. "You could do so much better," they told him. "You're young, rich, and powerful now. Why settle for someone like her?" Slowly, he started to believe them. He began spending nights away from home, claiming he had meetings. He grew distant, cold, and impatient, and one day, without warning, he handed her divorce papers. Emily stood there frozen, holding the papers with trembling hands. "Why?" she whispered. David didn't look her in the eye. "You're just not the woman I need anymore," he said flatly. "You've become boring." She wanted to scream, to ask if all the years of love and sacrifice meant nothing, but she didn't. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face, and walked away. That was the last time she saw him, until that fateful wedding day. After the divorce, Emily's life fell apart. She had nothing, no home, no job, and no family to turn to. For months, she lived in a tiny rented room, surviving on instant noodles and sheer willpower. She worked as a waitress during the day and took cleaning jobs at night. But what David didn't know, what he never cared to ask, was that Emily was pregnant. And not just with one child, she was carrying triplets. The news both terrified and strengthened her. She had every reason to give up, but those tiny heartbeats gave her a new purpose. She vowed that her children would never suffer the way she did. She would raise them to be kind, strong, and proud, even if she had to do it all alone. The early years were brutal. There were nights she cried herself to sleep because there wasn't enough food. Days when she walked for miles in the rain to get to work, but she never complained. Slowly, through sheer determination, Emily began rebuilding her life. She found work at a small bakery, where her dedication and warmth soon caught the attention of the owner, Mrs. Bennett, an elderly woman with a heart of gold. Mrs. Bennett treated Emily like a daughter. She helped her learn the business, encouraged her to take night classes in management, and eventually handed her the keys to the bakery before retiring. "You deserve this," she told her. "You've got the heart, and that's something money can't buy." Years passed, and Emily turned that small bakery into one of the most popular in town. Her secret? She treated every customer like family. Her triplets, 2 boys and a girl, grew up watching their mother's resilience. They were polite, well-spoken, and incredibly bright. Emily never told them much about their father, only that he had chosen a different path. One sunny morning, as she prepared a batch of cakes for a big catering order, a fancy wedding invitation arrived. The envelope was embossed with gold and carried the familiar signature, David Carter. Her ex-husband, Emily, froze for a moment, staring at the invitation. It was an invitation to his wedding, to a young model he had met at a luxury event. Everyone in town was talking about it. It was supposed to be the wedding of the year. The audacity of it made her laugh bitterly. Why would he invite her after all these years? But as she read the note attached, the answer became painfully clear. Thought you might want to see what real success looks like, the note read. No hard feelings. He wanted to humiliate her, to remind her of what she had lost. Emily almost tore the invitation apart. But then something inside her shifted. Instead of anger, she felt calm. She realized she had nothing to prove to him. Yet part of her wanted to show him what true strength looked like. Not the kind built on money or pride, but on heart, hard work, and love. She decided to go, not for revenge, but for closure. The wedding day arrived, grand and extravagant. Guests arrived in luxury cars. The media buzzed outside, and the venue sparkled with chandeliers and roses. David stood confidently at the altar, soaking in the attention. He was dressed in a designer suit, his new bride glowing beside him, her diamond necklace catching the light. Then, a murmur spread through the crowd. Outside, a sleek black limousine pulled up. Everyone turned. The door opened and Emily stepped out. She was radiant, wearing a graceful gown that wasn't flashy but elegant. Her hair was perfectly styled, her posture confident. And beside her, holding her hands, were 3 beautiful children in matching outfits. The guests gasped. Some recognized her, others whispered in confusion. David froze. His smirk vanished. For a moment he couldn't breathe. The woman before him wasn't the timid, broken wife he had left behind. She was composed, dignified, and stunning, glowing with self-respect and quiet power. She walked gracefully through the crowd, her children smiling shyly at the guests. People whispered, "Those kids, they look just like him." And indeed they did. Same eyes, same smile. It was undeniable. David's new bride shot him a questioning look. "Who is she?" she demanded. He stammered, "She's my ex-wife." But before he could say more, Emily met his gaze. There was no anger in her eyes, just a calm strength that made him shrink inside. "Congratulations, David," she said softly, offering her hand. "You've done well for yourself." Her voice was steady, but her words carried weight. The crowd watched in silence. For once, David had nothing to say. The ceremony continued awkwardly, but the focus had shifted. Everyone kept glancing at Emily and the children. When it was time for the dinner reception, guests surrounded her, asking about her life. They were amazed to learn she owned a thriving bakery and had raised 3 children on her own. The story spread like wildfire through the hall. Meanwhile, David sat at the head table, his mind spinning. Every laugh, every compliment Emily received felt like a blade twisting deeper. He realized too late what he had thrown away. The woman he once dismissed as boring had become everything he pretended to be: successful, respected, and truly loved. After dinner, Emily stood up to leave. As she walked out with her children, David followed her to the parking area. "Emily," he called out, his voice trembling. She turned. "Are they in mine?" he asked, his eyes flicking to the triplets. She smiled sadly. "Yes, they're yours. But you made your choice a long time ago." He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. She continued, "Don't worry. They have everything they need, and they'll grow up knowing what real love looks like, not what money buys." With that, she got into the limo and the door closed. As the car pulled away, David stood there, frozen, watching his past disappear. For the first time in years, he felt truly empty. That night, the news of what happened at the wedding spread online. People called it the twist of the decade. Photos of Emily and her children went viral, praised as a story of strength and dignity. Her bakery received thousands of new orders, and her social media flooded with messages of admiration. David, however, faced public embarrassment. His new bride, furious and humiliated, called off their honeymoon and eventually left him. His business partners started to lose respect for him as rumors spread about how he had treated his first wife. Slowly, everything he had built on pride and ego began to crumble. Months later, Emily's bakery expanded into multiple branches. She continued to live humbly, focusing on her children and community. She never spoke ill of David, not once. When people asked her how she felt about the past, she simply said, "Some lessons are meant to be expensive." Her children grew up knowing their mother as a symbol of courage, a reminder that true wealth is not measured in money or luxury, but in character, love, and resilience. And as for David, he spent his days looking out at the empty mansion, haunted by memories of what could have been. He had invited his ex-wife to his wedding to shame her, but in the end it was he who stood exposed, stripped of his pride and left alone with regret.